Now, as we briefly heard there, Macau has closed down its casinos for at least 2 weeks. Just picture this. Imagine Las Vegas doing the same and then magnify that a few times over and you'll start to get a picture of the seriousness of this decision. That's just what happened in Macau, Asia's gambling capital, because of coronavirus fears. Tourists from mainland China really have plunged since the outbreak, and this is a body blow because a significant percentage of Macau's economy is linked to its casinos and their related activities. I'm happy to say I'm joined live on Skype by Macau-based journalist Jose Carlos Matias, who writes for a number of Macau and Portuguese publications and is the Editor-in Chief of Plata-forma. Jose, I see you outside one of the shuttered casinos there. Just give us a sense of how massive a decision this was to suspend the operations of casinos. It's going to have huge ramifications for Macau, right?
Oh, yes, definitely. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everybody. Yes, one should not underestimate, one should not downplay the massive impact that this move will have. Somehow, one can say this was in the cards because over the past few days, several social groups were piling pressure on the government to make and to take this bold move of a casino shutdown. But it happened yesterday, as you mentioned, on the heels of another 2 cases being announced. The first 2 locally contracted, the first 2 cases which actually were not infected in mainland China, but here in Macau. And the government decided to do something which actually is unprecedented, a 2-week shutdown of the Macau casinos. We're talking about 41 gambling facilities, and we're talking about a huge impact because, as you rightly mentioned, this is Asia's Las Vegas, and more than 80% of the revenue collected by the government comes from taxes on gambling revenue. So we can also tell you that 1 out of 6 residents work in casinos, but this is only part of the story because then you have many more people directly or indirectly dependent, reliant on the gambling industry. SMEs actually are already suffering, so we are facing a situation of a crisis here. The government is starting to roll out measures to assist families, subsidies, and also small businesses, but this is just the beginning, and we don't know how it will end.
And Jose, Macau has confirmed around 10 cases of the coronavirus so far, as you mentioned. It's a fair amount, but considering Macau's geographical proximity to mainland China, you might argue it's not that many. Were people there shocked when Macau's chief executive made this announcement on Tuesday? Was this something that was brewing or came completely out of the blue?
Well, it was brewing, but, after the chief executive announced it, we witnessed a run on supermarkets and a lot of anxiety. So people are not sure about what will happen next, but we can also see the following and take note of the following, which is a widespread support to the way the government is managing the whole crisis, in contrast with what's going on in Hong Kong, where the chief executive, Carrie Lam, is under fire by all sides virtually. Obviously, this also has to do with the political crisis that has been going on in Hong Kong over the past 7 to 8 months. But, there's always this tendency to compare the 2 special administrative regions of China, Hong Kong and Macau.
Having been to Macau myself, I can say personally how much of an impact casinos have on that particular part of the world. They employ tens of thousands of people, and like you say, there are other people that depend on the casinos that don't actually work inside of them. So almost the entire population has its income tied to these casinos in one way or another. What arrangements have been made for these employees that have essentially been laid off for at least a couple of weeks?
Well, this is something that will probably be announced today. We've seen the government requesting employers to provide shelter to their employees who live across the border. One has to highlight that some dozens of thousands of people work in Macau, but actually live in Zhuhai, which is the neighboring mainland city. And there's already more than 40 cases in Zhuhai alone in Guangdong province. So this is a huge concern. Another issue has to do with the borders. The government is not ruling out the possibility of shutting down nearly all borders. This was the case in Hong Kong. Only a couple of border crossings are open in Hong Kong with restrictions. Here in Macau, none of the ongoing checkpoints is closed, but they're working differently with more restrictions. I would say that it's likely to happen in the coming days, a move of this kind. Now, about measures to be implemented, I would say the government is surely working on a package, actually several packages, which will definitely include those workers, those families, and as I said, small businesses. The whole city is depending on tourism. Actually, if you look at the figures from last year, nearly 40 million visitors came to Macau, the lion's share from mainland China. And this is something different from what happened 17 years ago. I arrived in 2003 in the midst of the SARS crisis. Back then, there was only one case in Macau, and it was a different Macau. This casino that I have got here behind me, the old Lisboa, was the largest casino. Now is one of the smallest casinos compared with the Las Vegas style casino resort. So this is a different situation, and Macau is way more dependent, way more reliant on the casino industry than it was back then, which was already the case, of course. We was already a casino city.
And finally, Jose, we are running out of time, unfortunately, but what's the atmosphere like there regarding the dangers posed by the coronavirus? Has it spooked people so much that the streets have cleared out like many other major urban areas in and around the Chinese mainland?
Definitely. This is it's a very atypical situation. It's really, this is really strange. You've been here, the streets are normally heavily packed throughout the day, so it's very hard to walk downtown. But now what you see is something that is close to sort of ghost town situation, and the people who are walking on the streets, obviously most of them, they're wearing face masks, and nearly all are local residents. The chief executive, the government, told people to stay indoors or to stay at home, only go out whenever necessary. The civil service, most or nearly all government departments have announced that they're shutting down their doors at least till the end of the week. Schools are not working. Families have to take care of their children at home. So there's a lot of challenges, a lot of it's a stressful situation. And it's going to build up to a situation I hope will not have any sort of boiling point or tipping point. But so far, one has to admit that the situation has been roughly calm. But of course, this is literally speaking, a game and gambling changer. What happened last night at midnight when all 41 casinos were closed, at least for a period of 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the public reaction to this, considering what we've been seeing in Hong Kong. If you have all these people laid off, it might stir some unrest. But Jose, thank you ever so much for your insights. We know you've been up all night and you're going to have a busy next few days for sure as well. Thank you.
Thank you.